Well, good evening, everybody, and good evening to the panel tonight. That's a polite term. Our topic is manipulation. We're all brothers in arms on this topic, but we don't all agree, which is great. But tonight we want to talk about manipulation from the perspective of, is it as bad as it seems, or is there a positive perspective to it? And as always, if you've got something that you'd like to contribute, please post a comment and I will share them with everybody as we've done in the past. So we have Tracy, Sarupa, Pia, Elaine, all are present. Good evening to all of you. Glad to have you with us. Hi, Sharon. Oh, that's good. We've got 6 people that are interested in manipulation. So at least we've got a quorum. Okay. So, Karen.
Yes.
You're from Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to talk about manipulation from the potential negative.
Mm-hmm.
Haresh is from Bali. And he's also going to be, no, you're not going to be negative. You're going to talk about the negative interpretation.
Yes.
Hi, Caroline. Hi, Olive. Hi, Eri. Hi, Ayla. Hi, Anita. We have Clara, who's from Taiwan, who's going to lead the charge for the positives, with Sonia marching shoulder to shoulder, who's also from Hong Kong. So we have an international audience. No, we don't. We have an international panel. We do have an international audience because we've got people from all over internationally too. Okay, Karen.
Okay, I'm going to throw out this, typical, everybody has experienced this example, like shopping at a supermarket. Maybe the normal price of that packet of, pretzels is like $10, but then they're like, $18 for 2, and they're manipulating you to buy extras. So the pricing, I feel like more and more I see that pricing manipulation for people to buy more, just because it's, on promotion or something. And yeah, that's an example of a negative play on consumer behavior.
Yeah. And the other one you were talking about was green screens.
Yes. There's this really hit Korean drama right now, and it's filmed in Italy. And then I found out today on YouTube that all that Italy scene was green screen. So it was all fake. It was all computer generated, and it looked so real. So CG technology has really, fooled us, or fooled me into thinking that what I see on screen is real, when it's totally not. Yeah.
For people of my generation who were brought up to believe seeing is believing, green screens totally screw with our heads.
And it's no longer easy to see that kind of, oh, this is the person, and then this is the fuzzy part. Like now the technology has really made it seem totally true.
They do an advert here for a car, and there's a glamorous woman standing next to this wonderful model of a car with a dog, very big dog. She's very elegantly dressed. And then they take away what they've imposed on it. And here's this green room, and the dog is actually a human dressed up in a cat suit to smooth all the lines of the body. Completely not what the advert shows. So, yeah, interesting, isn't it? So do you think manipulation's good or bad?
Well, I feel that the manipulation that I understand oftentimes is because someone wants a certain type of outcome in a way that only benefits themselves at the cost of the other person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to add more to this, aren't you, Haresh?
I am. But add a question about the two examples Karen brought up. When the manipulation is transparent, does that make it negative? So taking both the examples, like the one in the supermarket, you're buying the stuff, this much is this, you buy two, you get a discount. Now, it's not like the store is lying to you. It's simply saying if you buy this, you get a discount, right? So yeah, I'm throwing it in there to that's one part of it. The other part of the show is, so when we watch a show, you get this thing at the beginning that, oh, no characters here are representative of real people and blah blah. You see that whole written thing before you start watching the show. So one could say, well, it's transparent. They're not they're not putting on something without saying it's an illusion of sorts. So how then does that become negative, positive, or simply what it is?
It's for you to answer, Karen, because your two examples were what he used. And considering he's supposed to be arguing for the negative, I think we ought to shoot him in the morning. But anyway, let's carry on.
I'm manipulating the whole situation here.
You're trying. Don't worry. We're going to stop you in a moment. But yes, carry on. Karen, what would you like to say to that?
Well, the CGI example, I don't necessarily think of it as a negative. Just because, I mean, watching movies or watching, these things, you kind of know that this is make-believe in a sense. So I could see that the CGI is actually helping, fine-tune the artistic expression or whatever of the movie. Whereas the supermarket thing, like I feel like it just calls for either, consumers. I mean, the other example also with the supermarkets, like normally that thing is $10, but then they write it as like $13 discounted to $11, and then like they sell you the more expensive one. And it's kind of like either you don't care about, your grocery prices, or you have to know that, oh, this thing normally costs 10, so I'm not going to fall for the 11 discounted price.
So it puts the responsibility on the shopper.
Yeah.
To be aware.
To know the prices.
Yeah, which I agree with. From the perspective of what Haresh is saying about the cinema, I totally disagree with him. Because they don't say this is false. They don't say this is filmed in a green room. So you believe that what they're doing is actually taking place where they say it's taking place, and therefore it's possible. How does Clara and Sonia feel about it?
Okay, for Karen's case, I find that because you find it manipulation is negative because you find you were treated by the supermarket. But how about the other case? Okay, when we organize an event, we usually will decide and create the atmosphere so that when the participant, when they come, they will feel more open, more uplifting, or more positive or relaxed so that they can enjoy the event more. So in this case, I don't think this kind is a negative one. Although you really create something and create the atmosphere that you want the participant being there to be more open. So this is kind of manipulation, but I find this is not negative one.
Okay. Sonia?
I was going back to the supermarket. They changed the position of the goods couple of times. Like every few weeks they would change because they want more people to flow and buy different products. It's a way of marketing. I feel like it's also lies on the responsibility of the shopper. And if the shopper is easily manipulated to, I buy this, I get completely distracted where they want to go, then I think that is one way of manipulation, but the responsibility is also on the shopper. But I also want to go back to Haresh's cinema. I agree that it's a manipulation, and in this sense, because a lot of young children, a lot of young people, they really believe in what they see in a cinema, and they will say, oh my gosh, she's wearing this, oh my god, I have to go this place and do that. And if it's all fake and they don't know because nobody's telling them, and they would, because of that, they could end up doing something that could end up in big trouble.
Yeah. Okay, we've got some interesting stuff here. So that's very technical term for comments. Sharon says neither and both. Manipulation from a spiritual perspective can be beautiful. It can also be a way of protection after a traumatic childhood, for example. How do we feel about that?
What does it mean by a way of protection after a traumatic childhood?
I don't know, because my first response to that is no. But I don't know what Sharon means, so perhaps Sharon could add a little bit more to that. Okay, so we'll think on that one until she comes back. Sarupa says, isn't film about make-believe? Why would we want to take that piece out of it? I watch soap operas here in the UK. They're ridiculous, but just fun. I don't believe they are real. True, Sarupa, but a lot of people do. A lot of people believe what they see in a soap. And actors have been abused and attacked because of the character that they've played. At some point, we have to make it clear that it is make-believe. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I for that, like, and I agree that a lot of characters, when they go on the street, a lot of young people and a lot of like people, they cannot distinguish the difference. So they think, if you can do that, and why can't you help me do this in real life? They can't distinguish. So
yeah, I could see that too, like in, say, photoshopping of like models and like, you know, their figures, like, you know, I feel like people think that is the real standard. And that just kind of twists what is real, or it's kind of like one way of living.
Yeah. Haresh, Clara, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think I agree with what's been shared so far, and I think one of the biggest concerns I've had is when you read about, you know, the shootings that are happening in the US when kids go in with guns and things. Growing up, I saw, you know, a lot of superhero movies. You've had a lot of these superhero movies come out, and adult supervision is really important, which I think doesn't happen as well as one would ask for, because the kid, you know, when in these movies they show there's no consequences. You know, you injure someone, they get up and they're walking about like nothing ever hurt them. But reality is not like that. So in that sense, I agree that movies and cartoons and things, there perhaps needs to be more clarity on what they're showing and how real it is, and around supervision and things, because there is a lot of manipulation there, and it messes with people's minds.
Yeah. For me, I just find people will find that film are not real. So, I mean, to the degree, it is much less than the documentary, because people believe documentary are real. But for some documentary, I mean, they just present one side informations, so it directs your focus to that way. So that is kind of a manipulation, which is quite dangerous, I think.
It is manipulation to get people to a certain point of view. I agree. Sharon's actually responded. Thanks, Sharon, because she's clarified. She's talking about it from the child's point of view. I was thinking about it from the adult's point of view. When children are abused, they can develop ways to manipulate their parents so that they're not hurt. Smiling when they're scared, helpful when they're tired, sticking up for a parent, even when someone who is there to help for fear of consequences. Yeah. It's a manipulation to keep themselves safe. But I don't know that I'd only call it a manipulation. I mean, that's a deep topic, and that's perhaps something that we could talk about. We've had a couple of things around children during these talks. Perhaps we need to do something a bit more closely involved with that. Okay. So Anita says, I don't agree, re-CGI. The fact that technology exists means it can be used towards various ends, depending on what outcome is intended and by whom. And that's the crux of it. Manipulation depends on the outcome to be desired and the intent with which the manipulation's used. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, no, perhaps?
Yes.
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 Because manipulation can be positive.
Yes.
Sharon said spiritual energy, manipulation to spiritual level can be beautiful.
Yes.
Well, John's a really good manipulator, isn't he? So,
Yes.
and his intent is to inspire and to motivate. So manipulation, if someone's in doubt and you focus their attention on their gifts and their abilities or their strengths in that situation, you're manipulating them. You're manipulating them to see a better picture of who they are. It's still manipulation. Is that positive or negative? And I'm asking the audience this question as well, because we don't want to keep you out. Go on, Sonia.
If the intent is for the highest, if the intent for like to encourage the other person for the abilities, for gifts, its intent is good, I would feel it's a good manipulation. That's where I come from.
Okay.
I think it's positive, definitely. I've spoken to John over the years, and there have been times when I found a hurdle, obstacle that might have been challenging to overcome, and I wasn't keen to face that. And I think when he spoke to me, the way he puts it, and he puts it so beautifully, that you hear one thing in the conversation, you go back and you hear it again. It's you didn't hear what was actually said, but it set you up totally, and and it digs deep, because the way he speaks, it's his energy. He digs deep, and before you know, it's something that was deep within you that even you weren't aware of. It's come to the surface for you to look at, and he manipulated it. And I think I'm very thankful for that manipulation, because I know if it was brought to my attention square on, I might not be as open to it as the way he puts it. So yeah.
So that's called being sneaky.
Yeah.
Okay, so Elaine says storytelling, ancient, word of mouth to pass on culture through generations, myths and fables that teach for the good of all is a positive, and that is a manipulation. I mean, the oral tradition is there to keep alive the history, but it's also to focus on, good versus evil, chivalry, all the old standards that lift people up. Is it always true? No. Is it positive? Probably. Yeah. Okay, so Orla says, isn't manipulation just looking at the energy and working with it either for the benefit of others or not? It's looking at the energy and working with it, yes, Orla. But sometimes people do it just for their own good, and sometimes people do it for everybody's good. So it's the outcome. It's the intent behind it that says what's what. John once said, I manipulated my client, said Sarupa. And I was, oh no. And he said, why would that be bad? And that's when I learned more about intent. And when I trained in head massage, the term was manipulate that muscle. Clever, eh? We judge it. Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And I also think that for energy healing, so after we heal someone, we just say, okay, that's done, you are healed. So the client will say, oh, feel comfortable. So I think it is a positive manipulation.
It is. Manipulation as a word's got a bad rap, because it's always brought forward when it's a negative. When it's a positive, we give it a different name.
I think motivation.
Yeah. when it's positive, we'll be motivated, we'll be inspired, we'll be encouraged. We won't say we were manipulated.
No.
I wonder if we ought to start going around saying, I'm a manipulator and I'm being manipulated. What do you reckon? Do you think that might be good? What does the audience feel about that? I'm a manipulator and I'm also being manipulated. Could be the latest phrase, mantra. Yes? No?
Yes.
Well, Karen's thinking about it.
Because I was thinking about this example of this friend of friend. Apparently, she is the master of diffusion. Like, as in, she would be at a cocktail party, and then, when she senses that there was something gonna clash, she can go in and diffuse the situation. So, in a sense, that is manipulation too, being able to sense how things are and kind of diffuse the situation in a sense to avoid a potential clash. But whether the intent is to, avoid seeing something, or whether it's, for, what the intent is would determine whether it's, pure or not pure.
I mean, usually at an event, that would be seen as a positive, because what she's doing is manipulating the energy so that there is no clash. However, if you were at an event that called for two teams to really get stuck into an argument against each other, she wouldn't be seen in a positive light, would she?
No.
No.
She'd be stopping the
No.
debate.
Yeah.
So is oh, wait a minute. What does Anita say? Here's something. Sports coaches manipulate athletes to be better at what they do. Yeah. Expand their strengths and natural ability. No one calls that manipulation, but it is, in my opinion, in a good way. I agree with you, Anita. It is. It's an inspiration, but they have to manipulate what they know about the character of that athlete to be able to do it successfully. So they take the knowledge of that person and use it towards a desired outcome for the person and for the team. So it's a bit of both.
Yeah. Shall
Also,
I share? I would like to share a story. I mean, not story, but what's happening now in Taiwan, which is, I find it another good example of manipulations. So, I mean, during these few days, I mean, Taiwan is being attacked by the wave of new COVID-19. And so in 3 days, we have more than 700 cases, which is quite rare. Yeah. So in the northern part, the government introduced the level 3, so that fewer people gathering, but no lockdown. But in the social media, so there's a message spreading around, and then the message is in Chinese, but the translation is, okay, look, the whole world. Now Taiwan will only demonstrate once how to bend down or how to lift the level 3 within 2 weeks. So, so this message is circulating. But I mean, yesterday was Sunday, but the crowded shopping area in Taipei is basically empty. The subways were empty. So people just want to working hard to bend the curve. So I think it is a very good manipulation. This message is fantastic.
It is. It's brilliant. I think that's amazing.
It's a motivation without telling you what to do. It's like they want you to do something, they give you the motivation. It's come from within, so they do it.
Yeah, and they're appealing. Just say, okay, we would do it together.
But they're appealing to their pride.
Yeah.
And it's what Jacinda did in New Zealand when she said, let's come together as a team of 5 million to work together.
Yeah.
That was a perfect phrase, and everybody took pride in being part of a team of 5 million, and look what we did, kind of thing, which is what Taiwan's doing, just in a slightly different way. I think that's really clever. hang on, in Karen's example, Olive, I'm not certain what example of Karen's you're talking about. Can you let me know, please? Anita said Teamwork Taiwan. CJ says product influencers are manipulators, but what is their intent is for their own ends, or are they genuine in only highlighting great products? We don't know. I mean, obviously their job as product influencers is to sell, and then they get paid. Sometimes what they're selling is beneficial, sometimes it's not. Elaine, I'm not manipulating the comments very well. So it always boils down to the intention of the energy put out. I think so. I think so. I think what our intent is determines. The thing that bothers me is when people say, I'm doing this for your good.
Yeah.
Or believing that they have to do something. You know, I've heard parents say to kids, I'm doing this for your good. When you're grown up, you'll thank me. But I've also heard adults say, I had to do that because that person wouldn't have seen it otherwise, or wouldn't have known it if I hadn't told somebody else. So they do something that they want to do, but they justify it by saying it's for the other person's good. What do we feel about that?
I feel that is that's just a make feel good factor. It's purely just to make themselves look better, and this is a manipulation for their own good. It makes sense.
Okay, thanks, Olive. She's clarified because she said in Karen's example, the girl that you're talking about that diffuses could be stopping learning experiences by rescuing. And so what she's saying now is that that's who she's talking about, the girl who was stopping the potential arguments. However, what we were saying, Olive, was in an event situation, if she saw it getting difficult, and sometimes in events we don't want potential arguments or heated situations. It depends what the event is, doesn't it? It's interesting. Wow. Okay. So is manipulation a good thing or a bad thing?
There was another example I wanted to give quickly because I was supposed to give a negative example. So on Facebook, you have a center button where they recommend videos for you to watch on the app. And they kept on showing consistently lewd videos. And I had not put in any settings, much details about who I am, what my preferences are and all that. But that's what they kept on showing.
Yes.
Finally, I wrote to them and said, why are you sending me this stuff on this thing? And it changed totally after that. So they actually started showing different kinds of videos, you know, with sports events or people just doing funny stuff. But that's what they started off with. So
with lewd videos?
Yes. You know, with
like
sexual orientations and men chasing women and doing all kinds of things that I think some people would consider quite offensive.
Yeah.
So what I found interesting was in the absence of a direction, that's what they started with. And that's what surprised me. So when I wrote to them, it changed immediately. I found that quite interesting.
So Facebook tells us that we can't use hate speech and we can't use certain words for fear of offending people. But then if you don't say what you want in the center button videos, it shows you something that's offensive or could be offensive to a lot of people. Do as I say, not as I do. Procter & Gamble, some of you may have heard of Procter & Gamble. They own Olay. And Olay does a skin whitening cream. And Procter & Gamble is now in a contract with Meghan and Harry. Does anybody see the do as I say, not as I do there? Isn't that a manipulation too? She's upset that people commented about the color of her child's skin, and she's in a deal with a company that sells cream to whiten your skin so you'll look more white and you'll be better accepted.
I have a comment though, like, because I mean, I was in the skincare industry like ages ago, and we were selling whitening skincare because a lot of Asians want whiter skin,
Yes.
more porcelain-looking skin. But over the years, the terminology changed from whitening to more radiant skin. So it's not about how white you look.
Not on Olay.
Oh,
The
okay.
label
It's still whitening.
It's still whitening.
Yeah. So there's a manipulation there. My question is, who's manipulating whom in that one? But the same with Facebook. Facebook are manipulating people to watch videos. But why would they promote those kind of videos that Haresh is talking about unless they've fallen into the trap that they're accusing people to get out of? Where's the manipulation there? Most people wouldn't write to Facebook. And some people would think, oh, well, it's here, so I'd better watch it, and might then get a false impression of what to do and where to go and how to treat people. If you point the finger, you've got to be very careful that all of your fingers are pointing and not just one at somebody. Okay. Does anybody in the audience have any other questions about manipulation before I manipulate this topic to death by closing everything off? Oh, Sarupa says, Megan is into control and Facebook is into control. Well, there you go. It's that obvious. There's the manipulation. We've got it. Thank you, Sarupa. Elaine says, what's behind promoting lewdness? That's a good question, Elaine. Because Facebook could say it's just the algorithm that got it wrong. But who created the algorithm? It didn't create itself. People created it. And for that algorithm to be created and allowed to run, somebody in authority must have said it was okay. So what do you suppose our next conversation ought to be about? Any suggestions?
Control?
Control, yes. Control. Anything else?
I think one of the topics that came up earlier was around, which is something you had said, Helen, was around family. You know, growing up, I think it was briefly touched upon. And family is a sensitive topic, I think, for many people. And it kind of, all the topics we've been discussing so far, a lot of it starts there in how we perceive and see things. So that might be an interesting topic.
Okay. So we've got control and family. And those two could be interchangeable, couldn't they?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's like a training ground.
Okay, so Sharon's saying, I think some people are totally unaware of their manipulations and others are using it with great dexterity. I'd like to suggest to everybody that between now and the next meeting in a month's time, we all start looking at, do we manipulate? And the answer is yes. Where do we manipulate and why? And start to become aware of that. Okay, CJ, are they creating a dependency on their product? They could be. Elaine Jameson wants to talk about censorship. I think that's another good one. I mean, we did talk about free speech and it not working, but I think we could, there's a lot in censorship on many, many levels. Sarupa feels gloriously manipulated this morning and like she's grown, so I'm really glad. Thank you, Sarupa. Anita wants to talk about integrity. Whoa. Selective decision making seems to be rampant everywhere. So we've got control, family, censorship, integrity, and selective decision making, because I think that's separate to integrity as well. We've got a few topics then. How about people post which they'd rather talk about, or the order in which they'd rather talk about these topics? Put them on the post after this chat so that we know where to go with it. and we might carry on. We might have another meeting next month. Then, what do you think? Think that might be a good idea?
Yep, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to the four of you for joining tonight with your plus and your minus manipulations. I think it's been good. Let's see what comes in over the month, whether anybody actually responds or not. So good night, everybody. It's good night from me, and it's good night from them.
Good night.
Good night.
Hi.
Good night.
I just manipulated that one.
Exactly. That's a good one.
Good night.
Good night.